ever been in a D&D fight and thought, this monster just feels a bit flat?
Mm-hmm.
Like just a sack of hit points waiting to be emptied out.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're thinking about DMing and you really want your creatures to,
Yeah.
pop, to be memorable.
Exactly. Well, get ready for a serious level up today because we're doing a deep dive into basically the Monster Maker's Manual, Chapter 12, Monsters from the core D&D books.
Yeah, this is the good stuff. Think of it as like the ultimate guide to what makes monsters tick in 5e.
Our mission, should you choose to accept it, is to really unpack this chapter. We want to give you the tools not just to read a monster stat block, but to, understand it.
And maybe even tweak it. Appreciate the details. This isn't just for DMs either. Players who get this stuff, they become much smarter players.
Totally. This chapter covers so much ground, the basic stats, what makes a creature legendary, even how regular folks, NPCs fit into the picture. It's going to be fun.
All right, let's jump in. Where should we start? The stat block itself.
Yeah, got to start with the basics. The stat block, that's like the monster's DNA, right? Everything a DM needs.
Pretty much, yeah. It's the cheat sheet for running that creature effectively.
And one of the first things you usually see is size. Tiny, small, medium, all the way up to gargantuan. That actually matters mechanically, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just flavor. Size determines how much space a creature controls on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Like the size categories table shows.
Right.
A tiny creature, like an imp, takes up just a tiny 2.5 by 2.5 foot square.
So small.
Yeah, but then small creatures, goblins, giant rats, they take up a 5 by 5 space. Same as medium creatures like your orcs or werewolves.
Okay. Standard adventurer size, basically.
Exactly.
No.
Then it jumps up. Large is 10 by 10, think in the ogres, hippogriffs. Huge is 50 by 15 fire giants, treancants.
Getting big now?
And then gargantuan, that's 20 by 20 feet, sometimes even bigger. Krakens, purple worms. Imagine that filling up a dungeon corridor.
Yikes. Yeah, that space control is huge for positioning, flanking, just moving around. So what if you're a DM and, the perfect monster isn't quite in the book?
Ah, great question. The books, especially the Monster Manual, they actually want you to tinker. It's not set in stone.
Oh, cool.
You can use variants they sometimes provide, or maybe borrow a cool trait from one monster and slap it onto another, create something new.
Like hip-bashing monsters?
Kind of, yeah. You just got to be a little
Got
careful,
it.
though. If you make big changes, you might mess with the challenge rating, how tough it is. We'll get to CR later, but it's something to keep in mind.
Okay, so it's a toolkit. Nice. All right, after size comes type, aberration, beast, celestial. That seems really important too. Affects game rules, right?
Fundamental. Absolutely fundamental. The type tells you the creature's basic nature, where it comes from. And yeah, loads of spells, magic items, even class features interact differently based on type.
Like that arrow of dragon slaying.
Exactly. It works on anything with a dragon type. Not just your classic red or gold dragons, but wyverns too. Even pseudo-dragons, technically.
Gotcha. So it's like its biological kingdom, almost. Let's run through them. What makes an aberration an aberration? They sound weird.
They are weird. Think alien. Things that just don't seem to fit the natural order. They often have these strange, innate psychic or magical powers, like aboleths, creepy fish mind controllers, or those chaotic, slotty things. They really lean into the cosmic horror.
Yeah.
Makes players question reality. A fight feels different.
Definitely unsettling. Okay, how about beasts? That's a little simpler.
Mostly, yeah. Beasts are, natural animals, part of the world's ecosystem.
Yeah.
Wolves, bears, dinosaurs, giant spiders, that kind of stuff.
So wildlife.
Pretty much. Generally not intelligent in a humanoid way, no complex societies, mostly operate on instinct. Encountering a pack of wolves is tactically very different from fighting goblins.
Right, makes sense. Okay, celestials.
Yeah.
The good guys.
Generally, yes. They're native to the upper planes, the realms of good. Often servants of gods, agents of good. Angels, kuals, pegasi.
So, heavenly beings?
Exactly. Finding an evil celestial, that would be a huge deal,
Yeah.
story-wise. Very rare. Their presence alone might feel, holy or uplifting.
Cool. What about constructs? Built, not born.
Yep. Artificial life. Golems are the classic example, stone, iron, whatever. But also things like modrons from Mechanus. Maybe even fantasy robots, depending on the setting.
So they could be mindless automatons or fully sentient?
Both are possible. Some are just programmed. Others have real intelligence. Role-playing a chat with an emotionless construct versus a sentient one is interesting.
I bet. Okay, dragons. Everyone knows dragons, but is there more to the type?
Well, yeah. There are the true dragons, chromatic, metallic, super powerful, ancient, magical. But the type also covers lesser kin, like wyverns or pseudo-dragons. Still dangerous, but maybe not as smart or inherently magical. There's a spectrum.
Right. A wyvern isn't usually plotting world domination.
Probably not. Okay, elementals. Beings of pure fire, water, air, earth. That's the core concept. They're from the elemental planes. Some are just living elements, like a fire elemental. Others have more defined forms, but are infused with elemental power, like Genie's genie, Afridi.
And things like Belurzers, invisible stalkers.
Yep, Applisers are sort of like dwarves made of fire and bronze.
Yeah.
Invisible stalkers are pure air. Water weirds, lots of variety. Fighting them might mean dealing with environmental hazards, too, like extreme heat or sudden floods.
Okay, raw forces of nature, then fae, like fairies and sprites.
Exactly. Magical beings tied super closely to nature often lean to the Feywild. Think twilight groves, misty forests, dryads, pixies, satyrs.
Whimsical, but maybe dangerous?
Can be. They often operate on different logic than mortals. Their motivations can be alien, very connected to emotions and the wild magic of nature. Their social rules might be odd.
Okay, the wild magical folk. Then fiends, the bad guys.
Pretty much the polar opposite of celestials, yeah. Native to the lower planes, hells, abyss, demons, devils, hellhounds, rakshasas, yuloths.
All bad news.
Overwhelmingly evil, yeah. Serve dark gods or archfiends, summoned by mortals sometimes. Like evil celestials, a good fiend would be exceptionally rare, almost paradoxical. They might offer power, but always at a terrible cost.
Definitely avoid. Okay, giants, big humanoids.
Mostly, yeah. Towering figures. You've got the main 6 true giants, hill, stone, frost, fire, cloud, storm, each with their own vibe and place in the world.
And ogres and trolls.
They fall into the giant type, too. Less sophisticated, maybe, but definitely big and dangerous. The different giant types might even fight each other.
A whole giant society, almost. Then humanoids. That's us, right? Player races.
Mostly, yes. Humans, dwarves, elves, halflings, but also orcs, goblins, kobolds, gnolls, lizard folk. It's the main peoples category. Bipedal usually have language, culture, but generally lack powerful innate magic like, say, a dragon.
So it defines a sort of baseline sentient race?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Though DMs can play with stereotypes, of course. Not all orcs have to be savage warriors.
Good point. Okay, monstrosities. This sounds like a catch-all.
It sort of is. Frightening creatures that aren't really natural beasts but don't fit neatly elsewhere. Often magical experiments gone wrong or results of curses.
Like owl bears.
Owlbear's the classic example. Minotaurs, too. Things that make you go, where did that come from? It's where you put the wonderfully weird stuff.
The wonderfully weird and probably deadly. Okay, oozes. Slimy.
Very slimy. Gelatinous, shapeless things. Black puddings, gelatinous cubes, often found underground, just digesting stuff. Including adventurers.
Ew. Don't want to get stuck in one of those.
Definitely not. Especially nasty and tight corridors.
Okay, plants. Not just shrubbery, I assume.
Nope. These are animated, sometimes carnivorous plants, shambling mounds, treats. Also includes fungal creatures like myconids.
So walking trees and killer mushrooms.
Pretty much. They might have strange senses, like tremor sense through their roots, maybe.
Cool. And finally, undead. Ghosts, zombies, vampires.
All of the above. Anything that was once living, brought back by necromancy or curses. Skeletons, ghouls, specters, liches. The whole spooky crew. Often tied to negative energy. And usually have specific weaknesses, like vulnerability to radiant damage or problems with holy water.
Right, the classic monster types. Phew. Okay, sometimes there's a word in parentheses after the type, like humanoid or... What are those tags for?
Yeah, the tags. They add another layer of classification. They don't usually have rules on their own, but other game features might specifically call them out.
Light.
Maybe a magic sword does extra damage against creatures with a goblinoid tag, or a spell only affects things tagged as demon. It lets the game get more specific than just the broad type.
Okay, so more hooks for specific rules. Got it. Next up, alignment. Lawful good, chaotic evil, all that. Gives you a hint about their personality.
Exactly. It's a quick guide to their likely disposition. Chaotic evil suggests immediate hostility, probably. Neutral might mean they're negotiable or just self-interested. Lawful good usually means friendly, or at least principled.
But it's not rigid, right? The book says DMs can change it.
Absolutely crucial point. The listed alignment is just the default, the common tendency. You, as the DM, can make any monster, any alignment if it serves your story. A good red dragon. A lawful goblin. Go for it.
Cool.
Some monsters are listed as any alignment, giving you total freedom. Or maybe any chaotic alignment, meaning they lean chaotic, but could be good, neutral, or evil. Like the Berserker example.
And unaligned.
That's for creatures that act purely on instinct, like beasts, mostly. They don't really have a moral compass. They're just hungry or scared or territorial.
Yeah.
A wolf isn't evil for eating a rabbit, you know?
Right, it's just being a wolf. Makes sense. Okay, moving into combat stats. Armor class AC, how hard they are to hit. How's that figured out?
It's usually a combination of things.
Yeah.
If they wear actual armor like chainmail or use a shield, that contributes. Their dexterity modifier, how agile they are, adds to it too.
And if they don't wear armor?
Then it's often dexterity plus their natural armor, like tough scales, thick hide, stony skin. The stat block usually says in parentheses how it gets its AC, like 15 natural armor or 18 plate shield.
Okay, so protection plus dodging. Next, hit points, HP, how much damage they can take.
Yep. When HP hits 0, they're usually down. The stat block gives you two things. A dice expression like 4d10 plus 8 finite, and the average value, maybe 30. You can roll for HP or just take the average.
And the dice type depends on the monster's size, right?
Sorry. Tiny creatures use D4s, small use D6s, medium D8s, large D10s, huge D12s, and gargantuan use D20s for their hit dice. Bigger creature, bigger hit die.
Makes sense.
But don't forget the Constitution modifier. That gets added for every single hit die the monster has. So a monster with Con 14 plus 2 mod and a 5d10 hit dice, it gets 5d10 plus 10 HP, 5 times 2. Constitution really bumps up survivability.
So high con means way more HP overall.
Gotcha. All right, speed, how fast they move.
Yep, list their walking speed first. But many monsters have other movement types too.
Flying is common. Also, burrowing, moving through earth, sand, sometimes even ice. Not usually solid rock unless it says so. Climbing speed lets them scale walls without extra effort. Swimming is obvious.
What about hovering for flyers?
Some flyers can hover, yeah.
Yeah.
Means that they can stay perfectly still midair. If they die, though, they usually stop hovering and fall. A monster's movement type can totally change how an encounter plays out, especially with terrain. Imagine fighting something that can burrow under you.
Yeah, that changes things. Okay, we see the 6 ability scores listed too. Strength, Dex, Con, Int, Wheeze, Chaw.
Yep, just like player characters. The scores themselves aren't used as often as their modifiers, which are listed right next to them. Those modifiers fuel almost everything else: attacks, saves, skills.
Speaking of saves, saving throws. Sometimes they're listed separately. Why?
That means the monster is particularly good at resisting certain effects. Like, a wizard monster might have proficiency in intelligence saves to resist mental effects. If nothing's listed, they just use their base ability modifier.
So it highlights their strong points defensively.
Exactly. The bonus they get is their ability modifier plus their proficiency bonus. And that proficiency bonus, it's tied to their challenge rating. We'll circle back to that.
Okay. And skills. Similar idea, but for doing things.
Right. If a monster is especially good at sneaking, it'll have a bonus listed for dexterity, stealth, or maybe wisdom perception if it's very observant. Again, it's ability modifier plus proficiency bonus.
Can they be, like, really good at a skill?
Yeah, so now they have expertise. The bonus will look way bigger than normal, often double the proficiency bonus. Means they are exceptionally talented in that specific skill. Knowing a monster's skills can give you clues, like maybe trying to sneak past something with high perception is a bad idea.
Good tip. Okay, armor, weapon, and tool proficiencies. What's the deal here?
Basically, assume they're proficient with whatever gear is listed in their stat block. If you, the DM, swap out their gear, give that hill giant plate mail instead of hide fall, you decide if they're proficient with the new stuff. Gives you flexibility.
Okay, DMs call on upgrades. Now the big ones. Vulnerabilities, resistances, and immunities. These are super important.
Absolutely critical for combat strategy. Vulnerability means double damage from that type. Resistance means half damage. Immunity means 0 damage.
Ouch. Vulnerability sounds rough.
It is. And resistance can make certain attacks feel useless. Immunity just shuts down that damage type entirely. Some creatures are resistant or immune to damage from non-magical weapons, too.
Meaning you need magic weapons or spells.
Exactly. And they can also be immune to conditions like being charmed, frightened, poisoned, paralyzed. Knowing these is key for players picking their attacks and spells.
Totally changes the fight. Okay, senses. More than just sight.
Oh yeah, every stat block lists passive wisdom, perception. That's their score for noticing stuff without actively looking. But then you get special senses.
Like blind sight.
Yep, perceiving without sight, usually in a radius. Great for eyeless things or echolocation. Dark vision is super common, lets them see in darkness, but usually only in shades of gray.
What about tremor sense?
Feeling vibrations through the ground. Can pinpoint things touching the ground even if they can't see them. Doesn't work on flyers, though.
And true sight. That sounds powerful.
It really is. Sees through normal and magical darkness. Sees invisible things. automatically sees through illusions, sees the true form of shape changers, and can even see into the ethereal plane. Very potent. These senses can make ambushes or sneaking really tricky.
Yeah, True Sight shuts down a lot of tricks. All right, languages. What languages they speak?
Pretty much list them alphabetically, sometimes notes if they understand but can't speak. A 3 means no languages.
And telepathy.
Mental communication. Works within a certain range, no shared language needed, but the receiver has to understand at least one language. Doesn't need a line of sight, doesn't work in an anti-magic field. Some creatures can only receive, not send. Language, or lack of it, tells you a lot about a creature's intelligence and background.
Good point. Okay, the big number. Challenge rating, or CR. What does that actually mean?
It's meant as a rough guide for the DM. Theoretically, a party of 4 adventurers should be able to handle a monster of a CR equal to their level without, too much risk of a total party kill. It's an estimate.
What about CRs below 1, like 14, 18?
Those are for creatures weaker than a level 1 party. CR 0 is basically no threat in combat. Maybe worth 10 XP if they can actually attack effectively, otherwise 0. CRs go way up to 21 plus for epic level threats.
And CR ties directly to experience points, XP.
Yep, there's a table linking CR to the base XP awarded for defeating or neutralizing the monster. Even summoned creatures usually grant XP unless a rule says otherwise. It's the core of encounter balancing and progression.
Got it. After CR, there's often special traits. What falls under here?
All sorts of unique abilities, things that need more explanation. Very common ones are innate spellcasting and spellcasting.
What's the difference?
Innate spellcasting is like a natural magical talent. They can just do certain spells, usually at the lowest level, can't swap them out.
Right.
Sometimes restricted, like self-only. Spellcasting is more like a player character class. The stat block says 10th level wizard or whatever, lists spell slots, spells known or prepared from that class list. They use spell slots, can often upcast spells, and the DM might even be able to swap spells. Importantly, they count as that class for using magic items.
Choretic. Okay. Learned magic versus natural talent.
Pretty much. There's also psionics, which is usually mental spellcasting, often without needing components. These traits add a ton of flavor and tactical depth.
Definitely. All right, on to actions. What the monster does on its turn.
Exactly. Besides basic stuff like dash or hide, this lists their main combat options, usually melee and ranged attacks, weapon attacks, spell attacks.
And the description tells you everything. Attack bonus, reach, damage.
Yep. Target, bonus to hit, reach, or range, and what happens on a hit, damage type and amount, average in dice. Sometimes effects on a miss, too.
What about multi-attack?
That lets them make several attacks with one action, like 2 claws and a bite. Big damage potential. Usually can't use multi-attack for opportunity attacks, though. Oh, and ammunition. Assume they have a reasonable amount, like 2d4 throwing axes or 2d10 arrows.
Multi-attack sounds nasty. Then we have reactions, actions outside their turn.
Correct. Special responses to triggers, like parrying an attack or making an opportunity attack. If they don't have any special ones, the section's just not there. Players can sometimes bait out reactions, which is smart play.
Ooh, tactical. And limited usage abilities, like X times per day.
Yeah, there are a few ways these work. X day means exactly that use it S times, then need a long rest. Recharge XY is cool. After using it, at the start of their turn, they roll a D6. If it's in the XY range, like 5-6, they get the ability back right away. Also recharges on a short or long rest usually.
So it could come back quickly.
We're not at all for a while. Adds unpredictability. Then there's recharge after a short or long rest. Use it once, then need a rest. These limits make DMs think about when the monster uses its big guns.
Makes sense. Okay, special grapple rules for monsters.
Yeah, lots of monsters have attacks that grapple automatically on a hit. No separate check needed, unless it says otherwise. Escaping usually means the victim uses their action to make a strength, athletics, or dexterity, acrobatics, check against the monster's grapple escape DC.
What's the DC if it's not listed?
Usually 10 plus the monster's strength athletics modifier. Grappling monsters are great at locking down specific party members.
Good to know. And lastly, equipment.
Stat blocks usually only list combat gear, armor, weapons. Assume humanoids wear appropriate clothes. The DM decides any extra gear and what, if anything, is usable loot afterward. Spellcasters are assumed to have the components for their listed spells.
Okay, so the stat block is the core. DM adds flavor and details. Phew. That's a standard monster. But what about legendary creatures?
The big bosses. These are a cut above. They have special abilities that make them way more dangerous, especially on their own turf. Importantly, just polymorphing into one doesn't grant these special abilities.
Right, it's inherent to them, like legendary actions.
Exactly. These are extra actions they can take at the end of other creatures' turns. one at a time. They get a certain number per round, refreshed at the start of their turn.
So they act more often?
Way more often. Makes them feel incredibly dynamic and dangerous, even when outnumbered. They can't use them if incapacitated or surprised until after their first turn, though.
Okay, that keeps solo bosses threatening. Some have lairs, too.
Yep. If a legendary creature hangs out somewhere long enough, the place itself can become magical, infused with its power. The stat block might describe the lair and its effects. Fighting them, there's a whole different ballgame.
And they might get lair actions inside.
That's right. On initiative count 20, losing ties, they can use a special lair action from a list. Again, not if incapacitated or surprised. These often manipulate the environment itself, makes the battlefield part of the fight.
Very cool. And regional effects.
That's their influence spreading beyond the lair. Maybe the weather changes for miles around, or plants grow strangely, or illusions appear. These effects usually fade when the creature dies. Great plot hooks.
Wow, their presence literally warps reality around them.
Okay, switching gears slightly, the Monster Manual also includes non-player characters and NPCs. Why are they in with the monsters?
Good question. It's because these stat blocks for commoners, guards, priests, mages, etc. can be used for hostile encounters. You might fight city guards or an evil cult leader using these blocks. But they're also super useful as starting points for friendly or neutral NPCs the party meets. They work for humans, elves, dwarves, anyone really. It's a DM toolkit for populating the world.
And you can customize NPCs?
Absolutely. The book encourages it. You can add racial traits from the player's handbook, make that druid stat block a halfling druid, for example. Usually doesn't change CR.
Easy enough.
You can do spell swaps for spellcasters, change a known prepared spell for another of the same level from the same list. Again, usually no CR change.
Okay.
Armor and weapon swaps are common, too. Give the guard better armor or the bandit captain a magic sword. This can change the CR, so be mindful. And of course, important NPCs might have magic items, which definitely can impact CR. So lots of ways to make them unique. Let's look at a few examples from the book. The Acolyte, CR 14.
Yeah, your basic junior priest or cultist. Minor divine spellcasting, cure wounds, bless. Found in temples, maybe assisting a higher-up, low-level support or obstacle.
Okay. Then jump way up. Archmage, CR 12.
Big leagues now. Powerful wizard, 18th level spellcasting. Access to high-level magic like Time Stop, magic resistance. Tough opponent or powerful ally patron. Might be guarding ancient secrets or pursuing world-shaking goals.
Huge difference. How about the Assassins, CR 8?
Deadly, masters of stealth and surprise. That assassinate feature. Advantage on attacks against anyone who hasn't acted yet, and auto crits on surprise targets. Ouch. Plus sneak attack damage, evasion, poison use. Very dangerous.
Yeah, you don't want them getting the drop on you. Okay, back down to Bandit, CR 18.
Your standard roadside robber or low-level thug.
Yeah.
Basic gear, not very tough individually, but dangerous in groups. Pirates are often just bandits on boats. Early game staple.
And the Bandit Captain, CR 2.
The leader of the gang. More HP, multi-attack, parry reaction. Needs to be charismatic or scary to keep the bandits in line. Often driven by greed or a desire for infamy. A tougher, smarter bandit.
Makes sense. Berserker, CR 2. What's their deal?
Pure rage. Their reckless trait gives them advantage on attacks, but enemies get advantage against them. High damage output with that great tax, but fragile if focused. All offense, little defense.
Risky, commoner, CR 0. Just
Yes.
normal people.
Exactly. Farmers, merchants, villagers, no real combat skills. They are who the heroes protect, who populate the world, who give quests, essential for making the world feel real.
Right. Cultist, CR 18, and Cult Fanatic, CR 2.
Low-level followers and their leaders. Both have dark devotion for resisting charm frighten. The fanatic is tougher, has multi-attack, and cleric spellcasting. Often manipulative leaders serving dark powers.
The Foot Soldiers and Lieutenants of Evil, Druid, CR 2.
Nature Protector. This stat block focuses on their spellcasting Entangle, Speak with Animals, uses Shillelagh for melee. Guardians of the Wild.
Got it. Gladiator, CR 5. Sounds tough.
It's very. Arena Fighters. High HP, good attacks, multi-attack, parry. Brave trait resists fear. Brute trait adds extra melee damage. Built for combat spectacle.
A real powerhouse. Guard, CR 18.
Basic Town Watcher Soldier. Better AC than a bandit due to armor shield, armed with a spear. Maintains order, defends walls. Quantity over individual quality often.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knight, CR 3. More elite.
Definitely. Heavy armor, good HP, multi-attack, parry. Key thing is leadership. They can grant bonuses to nearby allies. Loyal, brave, often serves a noble or cause. Makes nearby allies better.
That leadership sounds useful. Mage, CR6, below Archmage.
Yep, still a potent spellcaster, 9th level wizard, but not epic tier. Has staples like Fireball, Invisibility. Could be a court wizard, researcher, or mid-level magical foe.
Okay. Noble, CR18, not a fighter.
Mostly not. Relies on influence, social skills, deception, persuasion, insight. Has a rapier and parry, but usually travels with guards. Represents authority and wealth.
Social encounters mainly. Priest, CR2.
More experienced than an acolyte. Decent cleric spellcasting, spiritual weapon, guiding bolt, plus divine eminence to add radiant damage to weapon attacks, healer, and holy warrior.
Versatile.
Well,
Scout, CR12, wilderness expert.
exactly. Good perception, stealth, keen hearing and sight, multi-attack with bow or short swords, great trackers and skirmishers in the wild.
Eyes and ears of the group. Spy, CR1.
Master of secrets, high skills, deception, insight, stealth, etc. Cunning action for bonus action, high dash disengage, sneak attack, good at infiltration and getting info.
Slippery. Thug, CR12, hired muscle.
Yep. Enforcers, decent stabs, multi-attack. Key is pack tactics, advantage on attacks if an ally is nearby. Work for gangs, criminals, tough in groups.
Pack tactics is nasty. Tribal warriors, CR18, like bandits, but...
Often depicted as more primitive, maybe explosive in nature. Also has pack tactics. Uses spears. Represents fighters from less civilized cultures, perhaps more territorial.
Okay. And finally, veteran, CR3. Seasoned soldier.
That's the idea. Experienced fighter. Good ACHP. Multi-attack with swords. Has a crossbow too. Proficient in athletics. Perception. Could be a mercenary captain, a lead guard, experienced adventurer NPC.
A solid, reliable fighter. Wow, that's a lot of useful NPC blocks. Really shows the variety.
Totally. And remembering you can customize them. You've got building blocks for almost any humanoid character or opponent you can imagine. Understanding these helps you run them better and inspires your own creations.
Absolutely. Well, that was a seriously deep dive into Chapter 12, Monsters. Let's try and wrap our heads around the big takeaways.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just how much information is packed into those stat blocks. Understanding it is key for both players, for strategy, and for DMs, obviously, for running encounters.
Right, it's not just numbers. It's size, type, abilities, actions. It all paints a picture. And knowing what, say, Fiend means or what legendary action does, that changes everything.
Exactly, those aha moments, like realizing an enemy is vulnerable to fire, or anticipating a legendary action that makes the game so much richer.
For sure. So hopefully, for you listening, the next time you look at a monster stat block, you'll see it with fresh eyes. You know what the bits mean now. You know you can tweak them.
Yeah, get creative. Try swapping a trait between two monsters for your next game. See what happens. It's your game. Have fun with it.
Definitely. So here's something to chew on. Now that you understand the anatomy of a D&D monster, how are you going to use that to make encounters more memorable, to build your own unique horrors?
Or even just thinking about your world. How does the environment or the lore affect the monsters there? What kinds of abilities would make sense for a creature living in, say, a magical desert or a frozen wasteland? The stat block is just the start of the story, really.
Great question. Well, if you dug this deep dive into the Monster's Den, please hit that like button, subscribe for more D&D deep dives. You know the drill.
And drop us a comment. What monster stats still confuse you? Got any cool homebrew monster ideas bubbling away? Or share your most epic monster fight story. We love hearing those.
Yeah, we do. There's so much more to explore in D&D, and we'll definitely be back to delve into more. Thanks for joining us today.
Until next time, happy adventuring.